Where does money come from? Your first answer is probably, the government makes it. They have big machines, they print the notes, simple. And yes, that happens. There are places that physically print paper money and stamp coins. Real machines, real ink, real paper. But here's something that should stop you mid-sentence. All that physical cash, every note in every wallet, every coin in every pocket on Earth, adds up to only about 3% of all the money in the world. 3%. So the other 97% of money, it has never been printed. You cannot hold it, you cannot touch it. It exists purely as numbers on a screen inside a computer somewhere. So who put those numbers there? Your bank did. Let's make this very simple. Follow closely. You work hard. You save up $1,000. You walk into a bank, you deposit it. You feel good, responsible, safe. Now, what do you think the bank does with that money? Most people think the bank just locks it in a vault, keeps it safe, waits for you to come back. It does not do that. The bank takes your $1,000 and lends most of it to a stranger. Let's say they keep $100 in the vault, just in case you come back asking for some, and they give $900 to someone who came in asking for a loan. Now pause. You still think you have $1,000. You can check your app right now, and it says 1,000. But that 900 is also out there, in someone else's hands. So from one deposit, two people now have money. You have your $1,000, but also, someone else now has $900. Extra $900 just invented. But it doesn't stop there. That person who borrowed $900 spends it at a shop. The shop owner goes and deposits that $900 into their bank. That bank now does the same thing, keeps a little, lends out the rest. And it keeps going, round and round. Your original $1,000 has quietly become several $1,000s floating around the economy. Nobody printed more money. Nobody added more gold. The bank just kept lending the same money over and over again. It sounds impossible, reckless, and even illegal, but it is completely legal. It has a name. It's called fractional reserve banking, which is a very complicated way of saying banks lend out money they don't fully have. Okay, but now you're thinking, fine, banks lend deposits, but where did the very first deposit come from? Somebody had to start this whole thing. Great question. Let's go further back. Every country has what's called a central bank. Think of it as the boss of all banks, the big boss, the one bank that sits above everyone else and makes the rules. Now, when the government needs money to pay teachers, build roads, run the country, it doesn't always have enough. So it writes what is basically a very official promise note. It says, lend us money now, we'll pay you back later. The central bank says, okay, and it gives the government money in exchange for that promise note. But here's the thing, where did the central bank get that money from? It didn't get it from anywhere. It created it, right there, in that moment. It opened a computer, typed a number, and that became money. Just like that. No gold, nothing backing it. Just a number that everyone agreed to treat as real. And this has happened on a massive scale. After the world went into an economic crisis in 2008, the US created about $3.5 trillion this way. Then, when the pandemic hit in 2020, they created $9 trillion in a single year. $9 trillion. From nothing. At this point, you're raising your hand and saying, okay, wait, if money can just be created from nothing whenever we want, why don't we just create loads of it and make everyone rich? Well, that's not how this works. In fact, someone already tried that. There's a country called Zimbabwe, and a while back their government kept creating more and more money to pay for things. Sounds helpful, right? No, it's not. Here's what happened. Imagine there are 10 apples in a market and $10 in the whole economy. Each apple costs $1. Makes sense. Now the government creates $90 more. Now there are $100 chasing the same 10 apples. So now each apple costs $10. The money didn't make anyone richer. The prices just went up to match. Zimbabwe kept going until things got so bad they printed a note worth $100 trillion. One single note, and it could barely buy bread. People were carrying money in wheelbarrows just to go grocery shopping. Some people burned the money for warmth, because buying firewood cost more than the cash itself. That's what happens when you create too much money. It's called inflation, and too much of it destroys everything. So the central bank has to be very careful. Create too little money and the economy slows down and people suffer. Create too much and the money becomes worthless and people suffer. It's a tightrope walk, every single day, with everyone's lives on it. Okay, now forget the banks for a moment. Forget the numbers and the printing. Let's ask the real question underneath all of this. Why does money work at all? Take a $10 bill. Really think about what it is. It's paper. Fancy paper, sure, but paper. It has ink on it, a dead man's face, some numbers. If you were stranded alone on an island with $1 billion in cash, you would starve. You couldn't eat it. You couldn't drink it. It wouldn't keep you warm. So what makes it valuable? One thing, and one thing only. Other people believe it is. That's the whole secret. That's the entire foundation that the global economy is built on. You accept money because you believe the next person will accept it too. That person accepts it because they believe someone else will, and on, across every country, every language, every culture. 8 billion people all agreed, without ever having a meeting about it, to believe in the same story. It's not gold that gives money value. It's not the government alone. It's belief. Shared, collective, deeply assumed belief. And the moment that belief cracks, as it did in Zimbabwe, as it did in other places throughout history, the money dies. Not because the paper changed, because the people stopped believing. So let's bring it all home. Money is created by central banks when they type numbers and decide they exist. It's multiplied by regular banks every time they lend your deposit to someone else. And underneath all of that machinery, all those computers and banks and governments, it works because you believe it works. That's it. You didn't learn this in school. And maybe now you understand why the question matters.